talk to him about it, just because he likes to, be responsible for increasing the coffers.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. It's 9:30. I know a couple people on here, but if everybody could just take a second and in the chat, type in your name, how long you've been in the business, and if you have any insight on what you're hoping to learn today. And so just take a couple seconds and do that. That would be phenomenal. And help me to kind of know who's here. Todd, if you're driving, I guess you don't have to, so. Oh, so Mary's doing it backwards.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it works either way. I mean, they go hand in hand, and so part two is the kind of how to, and part one is the why to. So yeah. Oh, cool, Andrew. So you guys log in timber structures. So that's very cool. Nice. Beverly, 7 years, first class. So cool. So yeah, so I like to call these two, I hate calling them classes, I like calling them workshops, because it's all a bit, to me, it's my favorite saying for years and years has been, if we learn by doing, what are we doing here? So to me, there's a lot of talk about doing things, and there's actually doing things. So as I just mentioned to Mary, who did Foundations 2, which is coming up Friday, this is kind of the why part. And then on Foundations 2, the workshop, we're actually going to put plans together. We're going to actually do the do part. And this is kind of critical for today's market. I mean, if you're a newer agent, there's probably not been a better time than right now to get started. The COVID-19 thing kind of reset a lot. There's a lot of agents that have been around for decades that are just gone, whether it's because of age and the fear of contracting COVID and all that good stuff, or just people that just pulled themselves out of the market to see what happened and kind of unknowingly or unwittingly destroyed their own businesses over the course of the last 4 or 5 months. But you've got a great opportunity. So looking at this, this is about long-term building, setting your business up for long-term success. And as a new agent or newer agent, you're kind of got two game plans, and one of those is your short-term, the things you need to do right now just to kind of tread water, things like open houses and picking up buyers when you can, just kind of, I was there too 28 years ago. And for those who don't know me, I've been doing this 28 years and a couple months, and spent 25 or 26 years in the RE/MAX system, and came over to Keller Williams in December, and I'm having a blast. So there's a short-term component, and then there's the long-term component. So having been there 28 years ago, right now it's just about surviving and getting a foothold. But at the same time, you need to be developing your long-term strategy. So the first part, if you guys downloaded the worksheet, we've all got those fundamentals. We've all learned about the contracts and the listing agreements and open houses and showing houses. And that's all great. And those are all things that every agent has and works with. Those aren't big differentiators. Those are simply the tools of the trade. So we're going to talk about mastering the foundations of building a long-term business. And that's all about relationships. Todd, I think, just mentioned, people are looking for a quick, easy fix. There are no shortcuts. There are no magic bullets to doing this long term. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of doing things very purposefully and by design. And it's a process. It's not a destination. So Anthony Robbins talks about a process of, he calls it CANI, C-A-N-I, and it's constant and never-ending improvement. And we talk a little bit about that in foundations too when we're setting up our plans for this next year. So we spend a lot of time trying to write deals and quote unquote sell houses. We just kind of get caught up in the busy work. We were chatting about that before the class started, that, even I do it after 28 years. I've just had a really busy June and July, and even myself kind of get off the rails a little bit and caught up in busy work, but I always still have to pull myself back to the fundamentals. And being able to consistently write contracts and list houses is really just the result of building and maintaining a thriving business. Kind of defining where we're at. A lot of agents get caught up, especially when you're new, that we're in the business of selling houses, which is partially true. The bigger picture in terms of running and operating a business as a business owner is actually selling yourself and differentiating yourself from the rest of the market. So we sell ourselves, and we sell the service that we deliver, the quality of service or level of service. So the product is you. To fill in the blanks, I got to look at two different sheets here. Everything else is just a tool of the trade. So you look at Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, Walmart, Target. I mean, they all sell hammers. If you want a hammer, you can go to any one of those and buy a hammer. How they differentiate themselves as what we call their value proposition, what they do uniquely. So if I want a cheap hammer, I might go to Walmart or Target. If I want a professional grade hammer, I may go to Lowe's or Home Depot. Lowe's has a unique proposition where if you use their card, they'll give you 5% off. So I'm a Lowe's fan when it comes to hammers or anything else. So along those lines, I am famous for reading stories in my classes. So there's a great book called Real. And if you've been in my classes before, you've heard me mention this one by Dave Crumby, C-R-U-M-B-Y. Phenomenal book, probably the best book I've ever read about the nitty-gritty truth of real estate. Every chapter is written by a different person, different perspective. And most of them all come back to relationships. So this one page starts out with a question, how do I succeed in real estate? And then it moves on to say, in fact, there is a systematic problem. It's time. There's too much time is spent on thinking and not enough time on acting. So we're talking about doing. Not enough time is spent with clients, and too much time is spent with the next big shiny thing. So we're just talking about magic bullets, and we're talking about clients and relationships. Personal interaction, face-to-face, belly-to-belly, is the one thing that no website or online campaign can synthesize or usurp. It's time well spent. And at least for now, you can't be cloned. It's the little things you do every day that can set you apart from your competitors and make a difference in your marketing. And he goes on to give some suggestions on that, but that's kind of where we're coming at on that. So make sure you didn't miss any fill in the blanks. So when we're talking about the different retailers, how they do it and their unique value proposition, how they are perceived is the why, or how they attract and keep their customers. So, and then talking about these relationships, I mean, people tend to do business or want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's just a big thing. So I spend a lot of time, so I go on a listing appointment. I spend a lot more time looking for common ground with my clients than I do actually talking about their house. I'm trying to look for common ground in their hobbies, their family, things that we can talk about where I can connect and create an instant relationship and then kind of build on that. Letting them know that, I'm just as real as they are, interested in things they're interested in. Another quote that comes out of that book is people are loyal to great experiences. So when you're working with a client, I know we're always looking to do something new. So out of the COVID-19 thing and everybody's panic, now when I list a house, we deliver a nice new shoe tray with a sign that says people to take off their shoes. We have a basket with extra mask in it. We have a bin in that basket is hand sanitizer. So it's the little things. And it's something that probably cost us 10 or 15 bucks. But it's something when somebody's talking to their friend or their neighbor or their relative, they go, wow, and my agent did this. So it's something small that goes a long way. And along those lines, Theodore Roosevelt said it best is nobody cares about how much you know until they know how much you care. And I love that quote. Brian Buffini loves that quote. And it's another good book you should get is Work by Referral by Brian Buffini. It's a phenomenal book, and it's all about relationships and managing those. So one of my memories I have of from my kids growing up is that movie Kung Fu Panda. There's a moment in that movie, Po, the son panda, was running around the whole movie trying to find the secret ingredient to his father's soup. The whole movie is about chasing this thing down. And towards the end of the movie, the father hands him a scroll, and Po opens the scroll, and kind of like nothing on it. But it's kind of a mirror, and it reflects back. So basically, Po sees his reflection, and his father ends up telling him that the secret ingredient is you, and that's true in your business and real estate. That's what you do, the differentiators you create, how you manage your relationships with your clients, and how you build on that and interact. That's your business. So important things to remember. Working on these relationships is being relatable, being approachable, be personal, be a resource. And I'm big on the be a resource part. I'm just always trying to give my clients information, whether it's going to improve the quality of their life, if it's going to give them things to do. So like we have a monthly newsletter that goes out. This next one we've got going out are locally owned restaurants that do takeout or carry out. And they're not chains, they're locally owned. And they're all, there's Italian and Mexican, there's all kinds of different fare there. But so it's we try to be that resource. We're not always talking about real estate. We're talking about things that add value to clients in their lives. And that's kind of my differentiator. I'm not sitting there constantly, even on Facebook, pounding away at real estate. I just, I'll mention it, every 3, 4, or 5 posts, and I move, but at the same time, trying to be personable and approachable and relatable. So it's, when we're talking about the short term and the long term, there's a difference, and Brian Buffini brings this out a lot. It's the difference between being transactional or transactional agent and a relational agent. And there's kind of 2 approaches to this business. Transactional means you're just jumping from lead to lead, and it's kind of that treading water that we talked about. And there's agents that survive and have a business, and their business model is very transactional, where they're buying leads from Zillow or some third-party source, and you're just constantly working those leads. And they may or may not be developing relationships from them. It's not a bad way to start. I'm not a big fan of buying leads. I'm a bigger fan of developing relationships or doing the relational part. And simple steps to starting down that relational path. Personal notes are a big thing. Brian Buffini is big on writing personal notes, and just about anything is an excuse to write a personal note. So, somebody contacts you about real estate, you can send them a note. I've got a meeting. Somebody called me yesterday. I'm going to meet with them Thursday. Yesterday, wrote them a note right away. I got that out in the mail. So, and again, that's personal and something different that nobody else does. Kind of things you need to ask yourself in terms of differentiating yourself from the market is, good questions are who and what and where and when and why and how. And answering those in a way that you can try to separate yourself from the market. So who may be, who you're specifically targeting, which you should be working your database and your sphere of influence, which we'll touch base on in a minute. What information, what you're going to do differently, what service you're going to provide that nobody else is providing, where, and where could be simply like I have a geographic farm that I've had for 20 something years. I kind of go at this a little bit synergistically where I'm maintaining and working my relationships or my sphere of influence. I also have 2 or 3 other things that I'm kind of got on the back burner to generate business as well. So your business is you, and your sphere of business, your database is your gold mine. And your business long term is actually as good as your database. Another way to think about your database that I learned recently is your database, your sphere of influence is actually a list of relationships. And if you kind of keep that mindset, you start reacting with that list, that database differently. When you think about everybody on that list is a relationship and what is the quality of that relationship. And then you can take it a step farther. Brian Buffini is big into this. If you get into his system and read his literature and his book, is rating those relationships. So I have A+ relationships, and I assign that to certain contexts. So people that I do a lot of business with, people who refer me a lot, those are my A+ relationships. And my goal is to get everybody there. It's a lofty goal, and that'll never happen, but that's kind of the mindset you have. My A relationships, those are people that, you do business with or you want to do business again with. They refer you occasionally, but those people that you've had good interactions with. B, so everybody is going to be an A+, A, B, or C. B are people that would refer you if you showed them how or if they had the opportunity. And then C's are people that you kind of want to, those are the relationships I want to build and kind of develop. The transaction went well, or we're pretty good friends and I want to kind of move them up the ladder. And D, if you have any D's, stands for delete. So the reality is, and it's true with any business, whether you're selling hammers or cars or houses, is that, there's just somebody or some situation you just don't want to go through again, and it's not worth it. And that's actually a luxury once you get to that point in your career or business to be able to delete people. So, but my mom, who's been in real estate since the 1970s, always told me real estate's a contact sport, and contacts in terms of referencing your database. And the other thing that she added to that was kind of have to circulate to percolate, meaning if your people don't hear from you, If you're not maintaining those relationships, you can't expect to get anything back. You can't expect to reap any rewards for something you haven't invested in. So hopefully that makes sense. So when we talk about farming, we talk about our sphere. This is a lot. I like the example of farming, and especially when it comes to relationships in your sphere. Because one is, like we mentioned earlier, it is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of purposeful work. It's a lot of planning and tending. So much like farming, the farmer gets out there in the spring, and when the ground thaws, and he's bending over and he's poking holes in the ground and he's planting seeds. And it's much like our business. It's just, you have a new client. You have a new closing. You have somebody you met who's interested. But it may, they may be doing something 6 or 8 months or a year down the line. And throughout the rest of the process, the farmer, just like we should be doing, is maintaining those seeds and those relationships, making sure they're, making sure the ground is weeded, making sure we're feeding and watering and fertilizing and taking care of the soil. And that can be by providing information, adding to their quality of life, like I mentioned, through newsletters and things like that. But just, staying in contact and maintaining those. And being very purposeful about asking for referrals. My mindset is I want my business to be 100% referral driven. Last year I hit 94%. So it's a number I track, and it's a very lofty goal. The industry average is about 42%. So trying to get to 100% is more of a mindset thing, and really adjust the way that you're interacting with clients. So even though I have your house listed and I want to sell that house and keep my business going and thriving, I'm actually trying to do such a good job that I'm working on the next house, meaning who you're going to refer me to. I'm working for your family and your friends as much as I am you. So farming and synergy, we talked a little bit about that. So you have your sphere of influence, and you're maintaining those relationships and developing those relationships. Farming, I mentioned, I do have a geographical farm and kind of have a synergistic approach. It's kind of like don't have all your eggs in one basket. So as much as I focus on past clients in my sphere, I've always got something in the back burner with 2 geographical farm areas I get. And it's funny because during the COVID shutdown, a lot of business shut down, and actually for about a 10-week period, my 2 farm areas really paid off. And I was glad I had those. I just had a big mailing go out before all that happened. So they're sitting there with the information. I do like a neighborhood report on all the sales for the previous year. It's a big 4-page thing. And that had gone out. So those relationships I vest myself in, not as much as I do my past clients and my sphere of influence. Follow up and adopting. So follow up is huge. We all generate leads. Making sure you follow up and develop those new relationships, and again, you're trying to move these people up the ladder. So if there's somebody that's that you categorize as a C, you want to do business with them, you like them, they've got good real estate goals, they want to buy their first house, or they want to sell their house and downsize. That's something you want to invest in, and you want to move those people from, you want to get everybody off the C list and move them up to Bs, and then get those Bs moved up to As. And then adopting. And it's funny because this came up in on the Facebook page for Keller Williams about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Somebody made a comment that they were working with a buyer, and the buyer closed, moved in the house, and the listing agent sent the buyer a gift, even though it wasn't their client. And there were kind of a few different takes on it. And I kind of sat back and watched, but it's actually something I was taught to do 25 years ago, 26 years ago. There was I forget who it was, but you're new in the business, you have, or even if you're existing in the business and you do a transaction, and it's your listing, say, and you just, I've taken those buyers and put them on my mailing list, because I met them, I like, and the transaction went well, and maybe their agents newer, maybe their agents, aging out of the business, but I try to adopt them, and I don't necessarily do that so much anymore, but that was a strategy that worked for a while, and when I did, it worked out. Worked out. So homework, and self-work. So again, we talked, this is Foundations 1. We're just talking a lot about the why we need to do this, why we need to build a foundation, why we need to have a long-term outlook and a long-term plan. And on Friday, we're going to do the do part. We're going to sit down and put your plan together for 2021 in, building on this foundation, and purposefully set up a plan to interact with your clients and maintain and take care of and tend these relationships. But self-work, it all starts with having goals. Goals all starts with having vision. And it's just how, so over the course of the next couple of days, just really need to think about how you envision yourself differentiating yourself from the rest of the market. What things are unique to you? I know there's an agent at the office that is involved with rescuing dogs and things like that, and that's a neat angle. But again, being personal, being a resource, being relatable, what things are you going to bring to your clients and bring to the table to kind of set you apart from everybody else. One of my favorite stories, and if I would be remiss if I didn't talk about motorcycles, because outside of real estate, that's my next big thing. But there's a motorcycle gear. I can go to hundreds, if not thousands, of websites, and I can buy tires and helmets and gloves and jackets and pants and boots and all that good stuff. About 2007, 2008, three friends in Philadelphia had an idea to do it differently. They lived in an apartment together. They put $30,000 on their credit cards, and they built a website called RevZilla. And what they did uniquely that nobody else did, they took every single product, every single helmet, every single pair of gloves, and they learned everything about it, and they produced high quality 2-3 minute videos. So if I want to know about a helmet made by a Rye or Shoei, or HJC, I can go to their website and I can read the reviews, and I can watch them tell me about that product for 5 minutes and show me how it works, and they've got good return policies and all that, but they became very relatable. Anthony is one of the owners, and I swear he's my friend, even though I've never met him, but I watched his videos hundreds of times, and that was the big differentiator. So for these guys sitting in their apartment in Philadelphia, November 2007, put $30,000 on a credit card. In 2012, 5 years later, sold that company for $20 million, selling the same stuff everybody else sells. But and it's just funny because those of us in the motorcycle community that are very familiar with RevZilla are kind of waiting to see what the new company does. Like, how do you replace Anthony? So that's the kind of thing we're kind of talking about in terms of building relationships. Even though they're in a warehouse in Philadelphia, they're doing these great videos. They're making online purchasing, very personable for the venue that it is. And they're very, very relatable. So questions are like, how can you add value to your client's purchase and sale or your sphere's life? What item of value can you consistently deliver? We just adopted actually last night a new follow-up system through some software called Folio. So my assistant, my wife, can track transactions, and you can actually add in your clients. So we're taking that experience, again, wanting to have clients have a great experience, so they can actually watch, they can look via a link and see what's going on with their transaction. In terms of when the mortgage commitment's due, when we're following up on the title work and survey with the attorney and all that good stuff. So it's something that costs me, I think, $12 a month. Everybody, my assistant, my wife, can kind of track what's going on. The client can log in, track what's going on. They have access to all their attorney contact information, the bank, everything in one place. So again, just, it's those small differences we talked about. So, try to think and imagine if 100% of your business depended on referrals from your sphere of influence, what would you do differently, and how would you act or interact with that list of people? And that's kind of the approach I have when I wake up every morning. I'm not, leads that come through email, through realtor.com or Zillow, and things are nice. I honestly don't have time for it. I'm focused on my relationships and past clients, and what I'm delivering to them, developing that referral business. So I can, so I've, over the course of 28 years, have developed a business that kind of maintains and feeds itself, as long as I'm maintaining and feeding that garden. Questions anybody has? Things that you might have questions about in terms of relating to clients, keeping in touch with clients. Hopefully that all makes sense. There's another quote in this book, Real, by David Crombie. And David Crombie at one point notes in this book, it says, the very best agents that I know do little or no advertising or lead generation. And he kind of moves down. He goes, how did these agents get away with not spending a lot of money promoting themselves or on lead generation? The answer is surprisingly obvious. They focus on creating real, tangible, and legitimate relationships with each and every client, and they provide amazing service to every buyer and every seller. They make every client a raving fan. And he goes on, he goes, they have an exceptional devotion to relationship creation and maintenance, providing great service and focusing on the relationship more than the sale. And there's a lot of great perspective in that. And again, it's, I got to the point in my career, probably 5 or 6 or 7 years in, where I was doing very well, and you're moving through transactions daily, and you're kind of I still catch myself doing this when you're answering the same question for the 2000th time in 28 years. And it's easy to lose sight that, we do this day in and day out, and it's very elementary to us at some point. And you kind of treat it like that with clients. And it's just kind of stepping back. So I've got a really, really good client, and they're wondering about their closing date, and they're like, who tells me about my closing date? And it's just easy to kind of, brush that off, or, because it's so elementary to us, but just kind of refocusing and picking up the phone and explaining to them exactly how that closing process is set up and works. A couple questions to Taylor. Are you very deliberate and direct in asking for referrals? I casually ask, but I don't want to over ask. So, yeah, so there's, I'm kind of, I'm purposeful about it, and I do it in different ways. So when I refer a new client, to say the mortgage person, they say, you need to call so-and-so and get a pre-approval. And I say, and let them know you're a client and friend of mine, kind of thing. And I always make sure I use that word friend. Things that I send out to past clients, and I've included in it for years, and we'll talk about this in foundations too, is I include the saying under my name, or it's kind of like my tagline, refer with confidence. In the newsletter we send out every couple months, there is a, right on the back page, we put how many houses we've sold this year, how many, like average days on market, I think is one of the stats. And the other stat that we include is percentage of referral and past client business. So everybody knows that number is important to us. And then again, we have the line, refer with confidence. But, there's always, I know I've done a good job when I'm doing a final walkthrough, or, at some point in the transaction, the client says, we'll gladly refer you to anybody you know. Until recently, I was kind of sheepish about asking for Zillow reviews. You guess you did a good job. You hope you did a good job. You're afraid you didn't screw anything up, and you hope they don't tell the world about it. But I've become very deliberate after the transaction about going, hey, could you take a minute? This is kind of helps me in the future, and write a review. And it's amazing how many times they do. I'm probably in the 95 percentile that they'll respond to that and actually write a review. You email them the link, and you ask them on the phone. But yeah, so I very deliberate about asking for referrals. I kind of do it in a casual, roundabout way. Or somebody says, hey, are you busy or something like that? Or how's business? I'll say, business is great. I just sold all my listings. Geez, if you know anybody, so if they bring it up, I'll work that into a conversation casually. So, Mary wants to know about ideas of an appropriate gift. I'm big on giving gifts, and luckily my one hobby is photography. I've actually, I just sold somebody moved to Rhode Island. I sold their house out in Sodus. They sent me a referral, and I've got a photograph of the Sodus Point lighthouse I took, and I'm actually mailing that to get it framed and mailing it out to them. And this all becomes part of the personal part. So if these people are truly relationships, if you're looking at your database, not as a bunch of numbers and phone numbers and addresses, but you're looking at your database as a list of relationships, and you want to move your C's to B's and your B's to A's and your A's to A pluses, those relationships need to be genuine. So getting into Mary's question, so I always try to find something that's personal and meaningful to them. So if they were clients of mine and I knew they had a specific interest or hobby, I would first of all try to do something on that. There's times where I just did it this morning on Facebook. I know somebody's into cats and they love their cat, and this cat meme or meme or whatever the young kids call it now came up, and I copied it and posted it, and then somebody else chimed in, hey, that's perfect, that's funny, that's that person kind of thing. So again, it's showing, goes back to Theodore Roosevelt's quote, nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. and finding small ways to demonstrate that, where you see a magazine article, you see something on the internet, and you share that with them because it's something they're interested in. If you were friends with me on Facebook, you'll see people do that to me. They'll go, hey, here's this funny motorcycle thing, or here's this interesting article or something. And to me, that kind of shows they're paying attention. So I recently had surgery, and I have somebody I coach with once a month that I've never met other than on Zoom. They're down in Nashville, Tennessee. And I had a 5-week recovery from that. And most of our time is coaching, and it's a group mastermind kind of coach thing. But in the mail shows up a book. It's basically like a history here. Look at motorcycling, and it's a big, thick book with a personal note that says, hey, thought while you're having some downtime, and that person instantly became my favorite coach, kind of thing. So one, they demonstrated the ability, they were paying attention, and they know what I'm interested in. And even though I'm pretty sure she doesn't know much about motorcycles, it just, she went out of her way to send me something that connected with me. So it makes sense on gifts and doing gifts. And then foundations will too. We talk about working your A and A plus people, kind of being very purposeful about connecting with them with gifts. Brian Buffini does what they call pop buys, which is where you take a select group of clients, and once a month you drop something off with a note. I took that and I adopted it to my own. So we do 3 or 4 very deliberate things that we'll talk about on Friday every year that we plan well in advance. But one of those is coming up in about 3 weeks, is my top referrers, my A plus people, and my most recent best clients we deliver mums to. So we went to the greenhouse, ordered 150 of them a few weeks ago. They'll be here. We have little tags. Says something about, the fall market's in full bloom, and on the back of it's my picture, and refer with confidence and kind of thing. So again, that's something we've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. So it's very personal. It's kind of sort of real estate related, but not really, other than the tag, kind of thing. Other questions, insights, thoughts? I will make sure get all the blanks on your worksheet. Did I miss anything? If anybody's following along? So and I shared this with the last class. This is a business you put a lot of your time and you sacrifice a lot. And going back to Anthony Robbins, it's a process. If you're in this for the long haul, it's a process of constant and never-ending improvement. And myself and my assistant, and my wife now, who's just joined me because she lost her job, and we just decided it's time for her to step in and take care of some things that she's really good at. But we do like 5 or 6 things that we focus on, and I really don't go. We talked about earlier, I read that quote about chasing the shiny objects. We do, 3 to 5 things very well. And I remember when my assistant first joined me, I go, here's my listing presentation, and we're going to rewrite the whole thing, and we're going to update the look. And then we're going to move on, and we're going to do our buyer's presentation. And then we're going to move on, and we're going to redesign our business cards and signs and things like that. And then when we're done, we're going to go back and do it all over. So right now, even though we redid the buyer's presentation 3 years ago, we're redoing it now. updating the look, updating the information in it. So it's just kind of that process of making things better. So I have, when we have a closing, we do the final walkthrough of the buyer. We have a moving day basket we give them. It's a tote. It's one of those 31 totes. That probably means more to the gals than it does the guys, but women obviously like these 31 totes. And we fill it full of stuff for moving day, a roll of toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, measuring tape, things that, stuff to hang pictures on the wall. And we've been doing that for a few years. And just last month, we took the whole basket, we dumped it all out, put it all out on the table, and went through item by item going, how can we make this item better? Is there anything we should add, anything we should delete, anything we should personalize? And just kind of going through that process of improving. So I'm going to leave you with this one last thought. Hopefully you guys will join on Friday. I forget what time it is, but it's part 2. And part 2 is the do part. Part 2 is where we're going to sit down with a calendar. And we're going to go month by month. I'm going to show you exactly what I do in terms of being very personable and deliberate about maintaining these relationships. And I'm going to give you that whole plan, and you're going to formulate your own. And hopefully launch yourself into a fantastic 2021. So favorite quote at this point is, quote, "I didn't come this far just to come this far." I mean, you've got this much time and energy into your business. I have this much time and energy. I've got 28 years into my business, and I didn't come this far just to kind of like stop here. Granted, I'm kind of at the maintenance phase of my career, but I still want to be better. I still want to be on that leading edge. Been with Keller Williams for 10 months now. And, excited about the business again, excited about the technology that, and the insight that Keller Williams brings. So I'll leave you with that thought that, I didn't come this far just to come this far. I hope to see you guys on Friday. I hope you enjoyed kind of the insight today. Like I said, we're talking about the why, and a little bit of the how. And on Friday, we're going to do the do part. So thanks for your time. Thanks for joining me. Hope the information was helpful. Feel free to email me with any questions you have, anything you want me to look at. Feel free to call. I will type in my cell as if anybody has any other number, and my email. Oh, anything you missed, any of the resources, anything you want to share or want me to share, feel free to give me a shout. And again, hope to see you on Friday. We'll do the fun, what I think is the fun part, the actual doing part.
Thanks, Harlan.
You bet. Thanks, Todd. Have a good day. And I will see you guys then. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.